One story is that 50 robbed Ja Rule's man for a watch or a chain or something like that.
No, Ja Rule got robbed by Troy from Baisley, this nigga from the projects, and 50 was cool with him.
I mean, my father actually showed 50 a lot of love before 50 was 50. He was vocal, you know?
A friend of mine's robbed Ja Rule. And I'm in a club, and I see the I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm chilling. He see me kicking it, get robbed him.
In that legendary beef between Ja Rule and 50 Cent, there's one name that kept popping up, Troy.
I'm gonna tell y'all who Troy is. Y'all heard of this guy. This is the guy that supposedly that the beef started with 50 and Ja Rule. Troy is the one that snatched Ja Rule's chain.
Rule, what up? You know, whatever. They call me Left back then. They go, Left, what up? And you know, we holler at you for a minute. I'm like, yo, Troy, what up, man? Jumps out, car, we go, walk up the block, we kick it.
Some thought this Troy was the infamous Big Nose Troy, the dude who had the singular reputation of terrorizing the Supreme Team. But it wasn't him at all. The real Troy? Turns out he was one of 50 Cent's own guys, known around the block as Lil Troy from Baisley Projects. He was that guy 50 supposedly sent to make living hell for Irv Gotti and Ja Rule.
One story is that 50 robbed Ja Rule's man for a watch or a chain or something like that.
No, Ja Rule got robbed by Troy from Baisley, this nigga from the project, and 50 was cool with him.
But how so? Let's get into it. So if you've been following hip-hop beefs from back in the day, then you already know that one of the most intense and still kinda ongoing was the Ja Rule versus 50 Cent situation. A lot of theories have floated around about how it all started, but things have become clearer now that both sides have shared their stories.
A friend of mine's robbed Ja Rule. And I'm in a club, and I see the I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm chilling. He see me kicking it with the robbed him.
It all kicked off when Ja Rule got robbed by this guy named Troy, who was from the Baisley Projects. Back then, Troy was one of those street dudes who had real clout in Queens. People talked about him like he was one of the names that gave Queens its rep, along with folks like Kenneth Supreme McGriff and Big Nose Troy. Now, the issue between Ja Rule and Troy came from that robbery, and that moment ended up playing a major role in the long-standing beef between Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and 50 Cent. The word on the street was that Troy allegedly snatched Ja's chain in the late 90s, right before Ja really started blowing up as a rapper.
I'm gonna tell y'all who Troy is. Y'all heard of this guy. This is the guy that supposedly that the beef started with 50 and Ja Rule over. Troy is the one that snatched Ja Rule's chain.
According to Ja Rule, he and Troy were walking together when Troy suddenly pulled a gun on him, accusing him of messing with his girl. Things escalated fast, and before Ja knew it, Troy told him to hand over the chain. Out of fear, Ja didn't argue, he just gave it up. And that moment kinda sparked the whole drama.
He pulls out the burn on. So now I'm shocked. You know what I'm saying? Because I know this, like I know him, I fucks with him. So now I'm shocked. So he pulls the burn on. It's like you holding me strapped. I'm like, nah, I ain't got nothing on me right now. Get him. He's fucking my girl. I was up north. Just stabbed me third. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? He proceeds to say, yo, give me your chain.
At that time, Ja Rule was still trying to come up in the rap game. He was under the wing of Kenneth Supreme McGriff, a major figure in Queens who basically ran the streets like a kingpin. Everybody knew Supreme's name and how much power he had in the area. After the robbery, the streets were buzzing. The story is that Supreme used his influence to get Ja Rule's chain back, which also boosted Murder Inc.'s street rep in a big way. Things got even more tense during the filming of the Murder for Life video in Queens. A bunch of local figures pulled up to show love, including 50 Cent. But what really stirred the pot was that 50 was seen chilling with Troy, like buddy-buddy, which looked like a huge sign of disrespect to Ja.
He see me kicking it with the robbed him, and he feel like, oh, shouldn't speak to this dude because I know the kid robbed him.
Turns out, 50 Cent and Troy were actually tight way before all this happened. They were childhood friends, and that bond didn't just start with that one incident. Even Troy's son, Lil Troy, later confirmed that the two had real history.
I mean, my father actually showed 50 a lot of love before 50 was 50. He was vocal, you know? And my father seen something in 50 that nobody ever seen.
Ja Rule didn't take it lightly. To him, it felt like betrayal. Like, how could 50 know Troy robbed him and still be cool with him? So when 50 came around to greet him, Ja gave him the cold shoulder. He didn't even acknowledge him. And from what people say, that's when everything really went left between the two. Even Chris Gotti, Irv Gotti's brother, once said the whole beef really kicked off when 50 tried to greet Ja Rule at that video shoot, and Ja basically ignored him. That one moment flipped the switch. From there, 50 wasn't the type to just let something like that slide. Things spiraled fast, and diss tracks started flying all over the place.
50 comes in the back, says what's up again, and I guess he didn't get enough conversation from Rule. Rule just said what's up and kept moving. He wanted to talk to him some more than he did or whatever, and was probably a little pissed off or something. And then that's shortly after that is when he started doing little mixtapes or underground records.
By October 1999, 50 dropped Your Life's on the Line, and it was a direct shot at Ja. Once that track hit the streets, the whole hip-hop scene felt the impact. It was clear this wasn't some minor disagreement. It was war, and things only got messier from there.
Y'all niggas don't want no part of me. I'm trying to figure out how y'all started me.
At that point, 50 wasn't just beefing with Ja Rule. He was basically going up against the whole Murder Inc. crew. And of course, you know Irv Gotti was right there in the middle of it.
Ja Rule, Irv Gotti. I'll tell you personally, the Murder Inc., the people that you see like Irv, Ja, the people that are involved in the business aspect are like these don't got no hood in them. That's the whole wankster thing.
Murder Inc. was at the top of the game back then, and 50 was still trying to break through. They probably thought they could crush him easy, just shut him down before he got any bigger. But that didn't go how they expected. Irv straight up admitted later that he tried to blackball 50. He used all his industry ties to block 50 from getting signed to any major label. Every time 50 made a move, Irv tried to slam the door in his face.
I blocked it until he fell into M and Dre's lap.
Damn, are you serious?
Yeah, labels would call. I'd be like, yo, if you fuck with him, I ain't fucking with you. And they were like, we ain't fucking with him then, Gotti, forget it.
But 50, he wasn't built to fold. Instead of backing down, he flipped the whole thing in his favor and came out stronger. Every roadblock just added more fuel to his grind. The beef between 50 and Gotti kept dragging on for over 25 years, even after Gotti passed away this past February. When the news dropped, 50 being 50 went on Instagram wearing a gray G-Unit sweatsuit, chilling with a hookah, sitting next to a fake tombstone that just said RIP. And if that wasn't wild enough, he posted a photo of Gotti smiling at some event and captioned it, "I'm smoking on dat Gotti pack. Nah, God bless him. LOL. That post blew up. Bobby Shmurda jumped in like, yo, this thing is crazy, son. And 600 Breezy added, every day he show us why they hit him 9 times, throwing it back to 50's infamous shooting in 2000. So if you rewind to when things really hit the fan between 50 Cent and Murder Inc., it was around 2000. Both camps ended up at the same hotel in Atlanta after a show. Ja Rule was still heated about all the disses 50 had been throwing, so he pulled up on him. With a baseball bat he had just been swinging on stage. But 50 wasn't the type to wait around and see what would happen. He punched Ja first, and then all hell broke loose.
And then, I guess a run-in happened where a fight broke out?
Oh no, that was in Atlanta.
When he went to pull Ja to the side, pull him, away from the guys to talk to him, Ja walked over there with the bat in his hand. He may have gestured with the bat as he's talking, and, I think, he raised his voice or something, and then 50 swung on him.
Both crews jumped in, fists flying everywhere, and the hotel lobby basically turned into a war zone. Now here's where the story starts to get messy. 50 went around saying he snatched Ja's chain during the fight, but Ja called cap on that. He said they both lost their chains in the middle of the scuffle, and someone from 50's crew just happened to grab his off the floor.
I had the chain. Go in the hotel, he showed me the chain. Marquise had it, everybody, his son had it, everybody.
Ja Rule's chain.
Yeah, it was just getting passed around in the hood.
Okay.
Then came the infamous fight at the Hit Factory studio. This one took things to another level. A fight broke out, and 50 supposedly ended up getting stabbed by Black Child. Thing is, there were some industry folks there who had nothing to do with the beef, and one of them got caught up in the mess and got hurt.
I felt the gap was in the area and reaching for it, you know what I mean? And I wasn't letting nobody get to their gun to pop me, you know what I mean? So I started poking niggas.
That's when the police got involved, and Black Child, who rolled with Murder Inc., got arrested for the stabbing. That whole situation blew up even more. The NYPD ended up issuing an order of protection against Murder Inc., and Ja and his people started saying 50 had snitched. That became another piece of fuel in the ongoing war. But while the beef with Murder Inc. was already wild, 50 was starting to face pressure from the streets too. After he dropped How to Rob in 1999, things really started heating up. That song wasn't just some regular track. It was 50 going after the whole industry, joking about robbing big-name rappers like Jay-Z, Big Pun, DMX, you name it. Some people laughed it off, others weren't amused at all. But one thing was for sure, 50 had everybody's attention. And once he saw the buzz it created, he didn't let up. He doubled down. After How to Rob, he dropped another track that took things even further. This time not just calling out rappers, but name-dropping actual street figures. And not just any street dudes, we're talking about serious names like Kenneth Supreme McGriff. Like we mentioned earlier, it's not hard to figure out why 50 name-dropped Supreme. At the time, Supreme was rumored to be Ja Rule's mentor, so there was already tension in the air. Then in early 2000, 50 dropped the track called Ghetto Quran, and that's when things started to get messy. The song basically read like a who's who of New York's drug game. 50 laid out names, events, and street legends like it was a history lesson.
Fear Prince and respect Supreme. When you slow I'ma break it down illa. Supreme was the businessman and Prince was the killer.
Supreme was the businessman and Prince was the killer, remember?
Some people saw it as just another gritty street tale, but others weren't feeling it at all. In that world, putting people's business out there can get you killed, and that's exactly where things headed. Word is, Supreme and his crew didn't take that song lightly. Not long after, someone was reportedly sent to silence 50 for good. On May 24th, 2000, outside his grandmother's house, 50 Cent was shot 9 times.
I forget, why did the guy shoot you 9 times? Was it drugs or something?
He was paid to do it.
The man behind the trigger? At first, everyone pointed fingers at Daryl Homo Baum, who used to be Mike Tyson's bodyguard.
In the beginning of the investigation, I thought it was Homo. You know, I mean, 50 said it was him.
But here's where it takes a twist. Newer reports suggest Homo might not have been the shooter after all. A name that started popping up is Robert's son Lyons. According to Detective Billy Courtney, who worked the case, the shooter's description lined up more with Son's build than Homo's.
No, this kid's Son. His street name was Son.
Oh,
he was from the Pink Houses. He had no street rep, nothing, and then all of a sudden he's a shooter. And when I finally identify him, there is a resemblance to Homo, and I could see why 50 thought that Homo was shooting him.
And get this, right after the shooting, Son popped up as Ja Rule's bodyguard. If that's not symbolic, I don't know what is.
Right after the shooting, he becomes Ja Rule's bodyguard. So I guess that was his bump. You know, after he shot him, he started bodyguarding Ja Rule and went with him everywhere.
The wildest part, Baum still ended up taking the fall. Not long after the shooting, he was murdered. With him gone, it kind of closed the case for the streets, like his death settled the score.
Talks about how 3 weeks later, Homo gets killed.
Right.
So 3 weeks later, Homo does get killed.
Yeah, he gets killed by Damian Hardy and his crew.
Now, most people would have taken something like that as a sign to chill, lay low, and just thank God they're alive, but not 50. While he was laid up in a hospital bed, shot up and stitched up, all he could think about was getting back. He was out of the game, blacklisted, with nobody in the industry willing to stand next to him. Meanwhile, Ja Rule and Irv Gotti were out there living it up. Chart-topping hits, award shows, Grammy nods, the whole 9.
If 50 who shot you, you think it was Preem? Freeze or top, tell nigga street.
Now here's where things start getting real interesting. Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and Supreme. They thought 50 was done for. To them, Guess Who's Back looked like just another desperate shot at staying in the game. And since it didn't blow up right away, they probably kicked back thinking, see, nothing to worry about. What they didn't see coming, someone important was about to hear that mixtape, and it was gonna change everything. In 2002, 50's lawyer sent a copy of Guess Who's Back to Paul Rosenberg, who just so happened to be Eminem's manager. And when M got a listen, man, it was game over. He was so blown away, he flew 50 straight out to LA to meet him and Dr. Dre. And once Dre was on board, you already know, it was a wrap. That trip to LA flipped everything for 50. He locked in $1 million deal with Eminem and Dre, officially joining Shady Aftermath under Interscope. Just like that, 50 went from a blacklisted underdog to standing shoulder to shoulder with 2 of the biggest forces in hip-hop. They saw the vision, and they were ready to help him take over the game. But before they jumped in full throttle, Em and Dre sat him down for a little real talk. They told him, stay focused, keep grinding, and most of all, let the beef with Ja Rule go. Eminem even rapped about that moment later in Like Toy Soldiers, saying he warned 50 not to waste time on street drama.
We actually tried to stop the 50 and Ja beef from happening. Me and Dre had sat with him, kicked it, and had a chat with him.
But let's be honest, 50 was never the type to turn the other cheek. At first, he kept it light, just a few slick jabs here and there, little reminders that he wasn't gone. But Ja Rule and Murder Inc. weren't about to let that slide. They clapped back with rumors, claiming 50 got stabbed at the Hit Factory and filed an order of protection after. Basically, they tried to paint him as a snitch, like he was out here calling the cops instead of standing 10 toes down. And that was all 50 needed. If they wanted smoke, he was more than ready. He started firing off diss tracks left and right, Wanksta, I Smell P, and each one hit harder than the last. At that point, even Em and Dre weren't holding him back anymore. They were all in too. Then came January 2003, and that's when the tide officially turned. 50 dropped Into Club, and it wasn't just a hit, it was a straight-up earthquake. The song took over everywhere. Radio, clubs, house parties, even soccer moms were bumping it. It went #1, earned Grammy nods, and made 50 the biggest artist on the planet. And for Murder Inc., that was the beginning of the end. Years later, in 2014, Ja Rule said in an interview that he never had a problem with 50 personally over the robbery. He admitted that 50 had nothing to do with it, but 50 used the situation to fuel the beef anyway, spinning it to make Ja look soft or emotional. Then in a 2020 interview, Lil Troy said his dad might have actually been the one who took Ja's chain that day. At the end of it all, now that most of the drama's in the past, it's refreshing to finally know who the real Troy was in that whole mess.